Hello all, my name is Piotr and I build Ru guitars. This week I think I'm ready for routing the fretboard. First to size with the neck and then routing the binding channel. This will require some sanding first because the neck will be the template for routing the binding channel. So this surface of the neck and this surface here with the swoop up on the headstock, that needs to be sanded almost perfectly. So I'll do that first and then I think I'll prepare the router table and I'm going to route the fretboard. So first things first, need to take the neck off again. I had a delivery this week. The binding was delivered, so I'm ready for preparing for binding installation. Although on the neck I will not be installing binding until I'm done with fretboard inlays and until I prepare fret slots for frets. So binding will have to wait. That's the neck disassembled. I think I'll remove the locating pins for now. I can always install them later and I will need them to properly locate the fretboard for routing. That's one. And this is two. Okay, fretboard is not needed now. Right. Let's have a look. You may remember I've sanded these two surfaces just a little bit. They look really good. I will check if they are absolutely straight, and if they are, I will just touch them with the sandpaper. This is done, but this section here is very rough, and since the fretboard is actually coming up to this point, it will all need routing flush first and then binding as well. So this needs to be sanded and, well, yeah, doesn't look bad at all. I don't think it requires a lot of work, so let's do it. I will first of all use the sanding beam. It's got 150 and 240 sandpaper. I'll start with 150 just to clean it up. As I mentioned before, using well-machined sanding beam keeps the surface straight and flat and square if you hold it properly. I'll do 240 just a bit and that'll be it. Yeah, I think that surface is ready. This one doesn't feel bad either. Lovely. Let's do the headstock transition. And for this, I need to use something different than the sanding beam. And I think for this section here, for the transition, I'll use a folded sanding pad with 120 grit sandpaper. And I'll see how it goes. It's a tricky spot to sand because it's a tight corner. It's also end grain here, so it doesn't really sand very well. So it's a tough spot. So this surface needs to be flat. It needs to be kept flat. So I will use this block to do the flat surface here, and then the transition, I don't know, we'll see. Nope. Sanding beam maybe. It would be so much easier if I had a bobbin sander, which sadly I don't, so I have to improvise. Okay, pencil. Okay. 150 is really aggressive here. Let's try 240. Yeah, so 240 seems to be doing great. You have to be careful not to sand into that corner below the surface of the side of the neck. That would be suboptimal. Yes, I'm happy with this surface. Let's try this one here. It's a very gentle slope. Sanding beam was just stopping somewhere here. Perfect. I don't need much sanded here, to be honest, because the fretboard stops somewhere here. So this side is the most important one, and I'm happy with what it is now. I'm not happy with these router marks. They're still visible here. So I'll carry on sanding this side. Okay, so it looks like these marks are on the lower half of the neck, not at the fretboard side, so I'm not too worried about that, because fretboard side is flat And this is what matters, because the bearing, the router bearing, will ride on this knot here. This will be carved away anyways. So I'm actually happy with this shape now. And this side is, yeah, all good. So what I need to do now with this is stick on the fretboard with the masking tape and superglue very precisely, so I will reattach the locating pins and prepare the router table. Yeah, it's that stage already. Exciting. Right, let's stick this on, and I'm going to use this new masking tape. Should be very simple. I'm going to go like 1 millimeter off the edge. Same on this side. There is an overlap on this masking tape, but it just happened to be over the truss rod channel, so I'm not concerned with that at all. Let's see. This is perfect. Now the other side. Now this overlap I will get rid of. Okay. Right, so in this setup, I've got the table wrong way around, doesn't matter. What matters is that this surface is flat and I can ride my neck against the cutter. So the way it's set up at the moment, this is the top bearing flush cutter. And the bearing is basically flush with a knife, well, two knives, and it's set up that the bearing will ride on the side of the neck, right above the fretboard, and the cutter will cut everything below. So these nice pieces of fretboard sticking out will be cut flush with the neck. So that's the first stage of cutting it. I will have to remember to stop before the end of the neck because of that overhang. If I forget and keep going with the bearing will ride on the back of the neck and will trim the overhang away. So we'll lose the nice overhang that I spent so much time doing. So yeah, let's start slowly. This material, the fretboard material, is chipping away like crazy. So I really have to be careful and go slow with it. It shouldn't be that much of a problem going this way because I'll be going downhill, except for this section here, which is very thin and it may just fly away. So we'll see. I'll be very careful. I'll do it very slowly, doing small passes, and I'll try not to destroy everything. I'll start with this side though, because there is less material here to take away. Right, let's do it. Okay, so this was the easy side, and it looks surprisingly wobbly. I'm not sure if yeah. Why is it wobbly? This router table is rubbish. It is flat, but it isn't, and it's, yeah. So, good thing I'm cutting the fretboard away by 1.5 mil, because this pass was not very straight. I'll try the other side and see if holding it in this position doesn't seem to be moving here. If holding it in this position will help. If it doesn't, I don't know. I'll figure it out then. Right, let's do this. Okay, so that's the difficult side done. It looks really good. I'm very happy with this section. It didn't chip out at all, so yeah, that's a bonus. I will go straight to cutting the binding channel, and for that I need to replace the cutter. I've got a special binding channel cutter here, which, as I mentioned, oh come on, has a bearing that is 3 mil narrower than, well, 3 mil smaller than the cutter, which means that it's 1.5 mil on either side of the cutter, smaller. So when I go in to cut the channel, the channel will be 1.5 millimeters smaller than, deeper than the edge of the neck. So I don't have a lift for the router, which means that I need to manually lift and lower it down to adjust it, and this is not very precise. So I'm going to go with being too low and not cutting the entire fretboard rather than cutting into the neck. I would like to avoid doing that. Yeah, it seems to be fine. Need to make sure that it's sitting flat on this weird surface and it's not causing any issues. Right, let's go with that. This is what it looks like after routing. It's pretty straight and flat, except there are places where I skipped with the cutter just a bit, so I'm gonna have to come in and tidy it up with sanding beam. And there's this weird ledge that's left from the cutter being set up tiny bit too low. So when it was installed like this, I wanted to make sure I'm not cutting too high up and not cutting into the neck. I need this surface to be flat as is and only cut the fretboard. So I've set it up tiny bit too low. I can always come back and finish this surface by hand. Also, these two cutouts here on both sides, they need to be finished off with a hand plane. They need to continue from this surface all the way through. I couldn't do it with the router bit, but I can easily do it with the hand plane. And the end result is this. It's a binding channel, 1.5 mm thickness, and I will use it to glue in the binding. This is the binding. It's just black plastic, and it will sit here all the way up the neck. It will go all the way off the neck, and there will be two pieces at this end. And yeah, they'll be glued on like this. So I've got the sanding beam. I'll try with 240, but first I need to cut this section off with a chisel. It's just a little bit of that ledge. Okay, let's try 240, and I'll try and make sure it's square with this surface. Yeah, very nice. I think I first need to get rid of that though. Actually, I'm right-handed. I'll do it this way. I'll use my pulp plane for that. And 240. Okay, very good. Very good. Now the other side. Beautiful. Beautiful. Now the only thing that's left in here, this I'm happy with, is the end. And let's see if I can sort it out now. What I'm trying to do here is to take off that last 1.5 mil at the end with a plane. It's not the best scenario because planing an end grain is always difficult. However, this wood is really hard and it seems to be working. I've got like a shooting board wannabe here, and this plane is not perfect for shooting board because it may not be square. Well, it is square, so it is perfect for shooting, but it's not long enough to be stable, so I need to constantly press down on it to make sure that it's actually square with the board, and doing little passes. I have no way of clamping it. I don't have clamps on the bench. I only have those, clamps, and I can't really reach that deep in, so I need to hold it in place. But this seems to be working a bit, so I'll carry on and see how far I get, and I'll measure it against the neck to make sure that I'm not actually going too deep. Yeah, this is not perfect, but it seems to be working. Let's see. Alright, so I'm at a little bit less than 5 mil. So I'll carry on and see what happens. Oh, nice. Okay. Oh man, right. Okay, so yeah, it was good while it lasted. and it started to take chunks out. I'm not going to do it anymore. Let's see. Huh. I think we're there. Use this pickup frame as a reference, and the actual binding that will be here. Ah, beautiful. Yep, we are very much there. I don't need to take any more off the end of the fretboard. This will be just fine. Perfect. I think this is as far as we'll get this week. I'm very happy with the result. This all looks very good, and it's straight and flat and ready to take binding. However, before that happens, as I mentioned, I need to do several things. Glue the fretboard on, cut the fret slots, and cut and make the inlays. You may remember I'm going for big black plastic blocks that will be symmetrical with the neck edges. So I'm going to draw everything out, cut it in very precisely, and then I will use black epoxy. It should work nicely with the black binding around the neck and around the body. And yeah, I'm not sure what the plan for the next week will be. I guess we'll see when we get there. Thank you for watching. Thank you for sticking around. I think this is a result. We're getting somewhere. I'm really happy, and I will see you next week. Cheers. Love you, bye.